Hey friends, you're listening to the AI Entrepreneurs Podcast, where we talk tools, stories, and strategy for today's founders. I'm your host, Angelina Shively, and this show is for entrepreneurs who are curious about AI and want to know how to transform their businesses. In each episode, I share honest conversations about what's working, what's not, and the lessons learned along the way. If you're ready to use AI to save time, think bigger, and build smarter, you're in the right place. Let's go. Okay, friends, welcome. Today I am here with Dr. Stephanie Thrower, who is a psychologist and business coach, helping value-driven experts teach, reach, and sell better with AI. So I'm so glad to have you, Stephanie.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to talk with you.
So tell us a little bit about how you're blending the idea of psychology, research, and career-changing growth into your business.
Oh my, it's just so much. I'm just jamming it all in there.
You got every acronym is all in there. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, I think as a career nerd, someone who loves to talk to people about their work, I think that means I like doing a lot of different things. And so I love being a psychologist. I have a private practice and done therapy for a long time now. But I also have been really interested in exploring all these different spaces, and entrepreneurship has really opened, like becoming a business owner, which is something I never planned on doing, like
Right.
open that opportunity to be able to do art and to sell things, to build things, to research things. And so I've landed
Uh,
here, and then I learned about AI, and that really solidified being able to integrate all these things without drowning.
And so did you have a private practice first? That was where you started?
Yeah. Yeah. So I started a business after having a baby, basically. I was
Okay.
planning on going into the professional, like become a professor or a researcher. That really was my plan in grad school. And in my postdoc, I was pregnant and was like, okay, I want to be able to control my time more. I
Yes.
know because I've been doing therapy for such a long time I have 2 masters and a PhD. And so I had done, I think, 7 different internships. So even though I was an early career person, I'd been doing a lot of therapy. And I was like, okay, let's start a practice. And I jumped into the world of business because of that. And then I don't know, 3 months later, the pandemic happened. And
Yeah. And
so
changed everything, right?
and changed everything. And also my work, I work in perinatal mental health. And so I was alongside women who didn't know if they would have their partners in labor. Like it was just adapting has been the name of the game.
For sure. Total game changer there.
Yeah. And I think too, I think that evolving my services outside of one-to-one therapy has also been a product of having more children. I know that I have 3 kiddos, and so I have a lot of brains to think about in my house, including my 2 dogs.
Including, yeah, for sure. Lots of responsibilities as a
Lot
mom.
Lots of caregiving, and so being able to stay in the world of therapy, but also think about diversifying how I earn money or thinking about this like dream of passive income, right? Like
Yes.
those
Yes.
are all these spaces where my brain was like, let's try these things. And yeah, I've landed in a funny spot.
As an entrepreneur, how did you trust in your instincts to just, I mean, was it like scary diving in at first? Like, what did your thought process look like there?
I had I had one of the best gifts of my training. I had many gifts, but one of the best gifts was having a supervisor who was like wholeheartedly a vocational psychologist who helped me think a lot about what I cared about in my work
Yeah.
and what things I like doing and actually developing especially as a woman, like my own career story. And I think as an entrepreneur, when we're not in that W-2, it's like we're so used to being told like what we care about, what we value. And this has shaken everything up of being like, oh no, you build your structure, you build your process, you have to trust yourself. And so all of that learning really got practiced when I started my practice because I was like, oh, like I can't just be told what to do or what matters.
Right. So almost like taking that leadership step in your own business and trusting in yourself to know that you have something valuable and you're going to share it with the world. How cool is that?
It's so cool. And I talk about it because my practice, I talk with moms about their work so much. And it's a process to build that intuition and to, I think sometimes people are like, okay, I'll build it as long as I know it will end up in a good, I'll be successful.
That fear. And I think so many of us entrepreneurs are like, okay, I need to keep learning and figuring all this out. And sometimes you just have to take the leap and dive in.
There's such a faith process in this of do I have faith in myself that I'll figure it out?
And so you started off doing individual counseling. And then how did that shift a little bit into, is it group coaching? Is it a program? What did you decide to do?
So I offer group and individual support for learning how to use AI or build AI tools to teach and reach and sell better. So I do it in multiple formats, or I'll actually build things for people too.
Okay.
And like I said, it kind of came out of a process of I'd had my second child and I was like, okay, like I'm going to have maybe another maternity leave if I have another child, which if you have a business, maternity leaves are just so costly. And you're just
Right.
trying to catch up debt wise, unless you have it, unless you're just an anomaly and you have it set aside.
Which for
And,
most of us, that's not happening.
and yeah, I think I was like, I want to, could I make a journal that someone could buy? Could I make a course? And I think the course building process was really where my wheels started turning. Like I loved building the course. The first course I built had no AI. The second course I built had no AI. And after I came back from maternity leave with my third, I was like, oh, I would never build another course, not just by using AI, but also for having AI tools for people to learn. Like,
Uh-huh.
and so I've gotten really excited about that piece.
So what are some of the tools now that you are either building for people or showing them how to build?
So I just finished helping someone build a course that teaches therapists and coaches how to start a podcast.
Okay.
And I literally like was on someone's podcast and I was like, I think you need to teach us how to do this because
Right.
we're curious. And we like starting a podcast is kind of this like dream thing too. But so we made the course pretty fast. Like she did the recordings, we talked about the structure. And then from the recordings, I had transcripts to build so much learning materials. I built a GPT to help identify a niche for your podcast. I helped build an app to train someone's AI along the process. So in 18 days of prompts so that
Wow.
when they use the prompts, they get great output, but then they also know that when they're not in the course, they can come back to their AI and ask these questions and it all understands who they are and what their podcast is about and all that jazz.
And I think what's so powerful about what you said is like using the AI isn't replacing, it's really using the knowledge that, for example, your client had built up and then creating the content from all of that knowledge. And the way that we can use that AI is it's so powerful to be able to insert the transcripts and then be able to talk back and forth with it and create your content so that you can do things so much simpler.
And as an as a educator, you know better than I do, like how important it is to individualize learning. And so I think that
Yes.
we have this opportunity to it would have taken me before AI, it would have taken me so many hours to try to create individualized learning plans for people.
Right.
But at this point, we have the visuals, we have the tools, we actually have like we can create GPTs to individualize how someone understands and like even assess what their knowledge gaps are. Like that's amazing.
And I think too, for some of the listeners, it's even what you just said, while that may sound so like easy breezy for some of us, that still may feel overwhelming. So I think what is also valuable is knowing that there are experts out there, and especially like in your very specific niche, that as a counselor, that you are able to take all of that knowledge and then be able to build those tools is so powerful. I wanted to talk a little bit about kind of the learning process. And I want to share a story because I feel like we kind of connected on this, but that's one of the things learning as an entrepreneur, like when you're offering to build things for people, sometimes we don't know what we don't know. And so it's growing pains of going through that experience and realizing, okay, wow, that took a lot of time. And this is what maybe cost versus time. Like, what are some lessons that do you feel like you're learning around that, just being in the middle of it right now?
I think that there's a learning process. So my therapist asked me the other day, she was like, because I was complaining about my reach and the nervousness of being visible and not just being visible and all like the fears that come from judgment of what are people going to think. But I think the visibility process of like people watching you grow is a little
Mhm.
bit mortifying. And she was like, "Do you need that? Do you need to have an audience in order to make money as an entrepreneur?" And I was like, "I kind of think at least where I'm at right now, I have to build that community. It's very valuable. But it also means that you're going to be growing in plain sight."
Yes.
And I was not trained to do that.
Yes.
Maybe.
And I think, yeah,
Yeah.
I totally get what you're saying, because I think a lot of times it's like you feel like you need to be the expert. And in order to be the expert, it has to be perfect and you have to have it all figured out. And I don't know about you, but I'm slowly learning like there's no way to be the expert because everything changes every day. So it's like you need to know that you are probably 95% more advanced than any of the people that you're working with, and that they are going to really come to you for that expertise, right?
Totally. Like my grad school experience it was still my peer group that was watching me grow and me getting feedback and me learning how to become a psychologist, but it wasn't on the internet.
It was just live. Here you go. Absolutely.
And yeah, I think that's kind of the hard part. And also being on the internet sometimes means the feedback you get. I think I got some really tough feedback in grad school, but I think it can be unfiltered in a way or decontextualized in a way that feels like for a lot of experts just feels very overwhelming.
So I think it sounds like what you're saying is to just, it's okay, and to get in there and be messy and just do it, right?
Yeah, it really the only way you're gonna get better is by doing. And yeah, the only way to do that is to go through. And
Yes.
so I think that like the kids song, "We're going on a bear hunt," there's like
Yes.
the book where you're like, we can't go over it, we can't go under it, we have to go through it.
Oh my gosh, what a great analogy. That's so true. I mean, I felt that way today. Like I get so nervous even before I go live on things, and I'm like, okay, but what's going to happen if I mess up? Nothing. Like the people might say, "Oh, hey, help you out here. You forgot to click this." But I think the more that we do it, it feels better and it feels okay. I do have the confidence to do this. Super fast friend, if you're loving this episode, make sure you follow the show and leave a 5-star review. And if you want help actually using AI to build content and sales, come join us inside the school community, AI Amplified Entrepreneurs. The link is in the show notes. So, okay, let me ask this question that I like to ask of our guests. What do you feel like is the biggest, and it doesn't have to be a tool, but like something that you're learning right now that you're like, this is a game changer in regards to AI, if it's like some process that you're doing or something that's taken off your plate from using the tools.
I think there's can I have 2?
You could have 2. We'll let you have 2, yes.
Can I have 2 babies? I mean, I think being able to build apps feels and vibe code apps feels just I don't know, do you remember the commercial where there was like, "There's an app for that?"
Yes, yes.
I don't even know what it was for, but I just remember that, and I feel like that felt very far from what we would be able to do ourselves. That developers built apps, people who knew computer science, and so to go in there and to create something, it just feels so cool,
Yes.
and I think I even think simple apps that in some ways probably could be a PDF or a Google Doc still feel exciting to able
Right.
to offer. But then you start to get into including AI in those apps. It just feels a little bit mind blowing.
Yes, for sure. And I'm gonna let you say your second thing, and then I wanna circle back to that because I want to connect the dots for listeners.
The second, I think kind of where I keep falling in love with is creating AI art and working and seeing how creating AI art can really elevate and the branding of things.
Uh-huh.
And I wouldn't say like I'm a pro marketer, but that space of design and learning what kind of prompts work and do not work when I'm either creating just art with Midjourney, which is pretty much my favorite space, and I can get lost in that. But then taking it into Canva or also just creating portraits. So, like photographs of myself for marketing
Yes.
purposes. Learning how to do the prompting with that has been a different language than the LLMs. And that has felt kinda cool to have finesse over.
Right, yes, for sure. And I think the key thing you're saying is experiencing and just trying it out and letting yourself get lost in play, just like for kids, like being able to have that creative energy can really ignite your passions in a way that feels meaningful.
And I think with technology, we've been so trained to first learn the parameters of what it cannot do. And so when I remember playing with paint, like, with the pixel like, the little
Yes.
boxes as a kid,
Yes.
so much of what made me good at it was learning what the rules were. And this is it's totally a huge mind shift of being like, "No, you have to the hardest part is you deciding what you want to see."
Yes. And that's where I think it's a shift because you get to be the orchestrator of that and your imagination and your ability to structure into words how you want something to end up is more important than having that background coding knowledge and all of that. So that's pretty cool.
It is. Yeah.
Now, tell me some of, because I'm very interested in your take on this. So, the idea of psychology and blending tools, like what exactly are you building as far as tools for people? Because I know a lot of times there's this fear of, is the AI going to replace me as a counselor or therapist? And what does that look like?
Yeah. I mean, I think I find myself frustrated with that being such a headline of because it is such a scarcity space of how is this going to threaten me? And we don't tend to learn well in scarcity, right? We don't
Right.
tend to feel creative. And so so in terms of tools, here's where I think it's important that we have people who are trained in treating diagnoses to understand where the limits of our capacity is, right? So when I'm building a tool, I don't build tools that are meant to treat a clinical issue. And I don't really recommend people to do that because lots of reasons, but also because I don't understand the code that my code sits on top of. There's
Right. Right.
thousands of lines. Like I can think of a ton of different ways I could build a GPT to help someone who has OCD
Hmm.
or has PTSD. But I don't really know what I mean, I'm also concerned about privacy. I'm concerned about but ultimately, like the advice and what is given, I have very little
Yes.
control over. And no matter what, it's still going to be different than all these workbooks I have, right? I have
Right.
like loads and loads of treatment workbooks that have tons of disclaimers to them. But we are not going to think that the book is telling us what to do. Whereas the way that AI interacts with us, sometimes it feels very convincing that there's a human.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's how, when I think, so that it's kind of like this coaching versus therapy conundrum of what is a treatment versus what is education? And can you be clear on that? And there's not enough therapists in the room saying, sounds too adjacent to treatment versus like, how do we make sure that their safeguards are in place to address the risks that are involved of something that looks like treatment? Yeah.
So when you're creating these tools, what kind of tools are you making for
That was your
users?
question. Sorry.
That's okay. No, I'm just really curious because I think it's an interesting blend because you're doing all of these things.
So the first tool that I created was, and I still think it might be one of my favorite versions of a tool, is I create a journal that
Okay.
has as a Google Doc and has human questions, human prompts. And then at the end of it, there's a big long prompt and or I make a GPT for it,
Okay.
has even more knowledge, and it analyzes data the way I might analyze data. And
Makes
so
sense.
and so I do this specifically. The very first thing that like blew my mind was I've always done vocational assessments with people. I was trained in that at the VA. And that's me taking a bunch of different tool questionnaires, like research backed questionnaires that have theoretical frameworks. And I would write a 10-page report on all the data and synthesize it and analyze it and create a picture of people's career indecision or struggles or whatever the question that came into, almost like a neuropsych report, right?
Sure. Okay.
And so what I started to do was I've been doing email versions of that. So I've been doing it online since I started my practice. And then created a version of that had an AI prompt.
Awesome.
And what has been totally mind blowing is so someone will fill out my maybe too many questions assessment because they have a specific career question about should I stay? Should I go? Should I build a business? Why am I so unhappy in my work? And part of my job in that is knowing that, like, being mindful about any overly sensitive information. But for the most part, I'm asking about work experiences,
Sure.
feeling. Then they'd fill this out, they would then output, and then they would we would our work together would move so fast.
To get them started just in their thinking.
And then the weird element about this that's so powerful, and I call it the Inception benefit because it's so trippy, is that then their AI knows all this high quality data about their career story and their career profile that's rooted in research. And so they have this asset that they can talk to forever, as long as they have the account, to understand and navigate career decisions.
Amazing. What a
Yeah.
cool tool. I love it. That is such a good connection because it's not replacing you. It's really just enhancing your ability to get from point A to point B so much faster. I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your work. And I know you have a free resource that you want to give to everyone that I'll add in the show notes. If they want to learn more about working with you, who is your ideal client?
My ideal client is someone who owns an expert. led business. And it's pretty broad. Because I think a lot of people are like, am I an expert? And for the most part, you are. Coaches, consultants. I do work with therapists to help shore up some of their business assets, but I might not and build GPTs for them, but I don't tend to teach people how to make clinical tools, right? So I tend to work with coaches and consultants and who are interested in wanting to learn how to use AI better, but also maybe build some cool AI assets for their business. Yeah.
Awesome. I will put the ways to reach out to you in the show notes. And I have so enjoyed our conversation and I love what you're doing in the world. So thank you so much for meeting with us.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to the AI Amplified podcast for entrepreneurs. If you want to learn more about my work, head on over to my website at aicoachingwithangelina.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe and share this podcast with a friend. See you next week.